This is 3.5 in pre-algebra called applications. This is the section that most students dread just because they're applications, and the other word for applications is a dreaded story problem. Now whenever students say, when will I ever use this stuff? This is when you'll use it. Story problems is the actual real life stuff. Obviously these are made up things, and sometimes you'll never use exactly what they're doing here, but applications in problem solving and story problems is the examples where you're going to use what you need. So there is a blueprint for problem solving that gives you 6 different steps, and sometimes I use some of those steps, sometimes I don't, but we're just going to start off with example 1 and kind of work our way through and maybe give you some tricks to help you do better with these. So example 1 says the sum of a number is of a number and 2 is 8. All right, so there's some key words there. Sum means that we're going to be adding something, because the sum is the answer to an addition problem. The sum of a number. What number is that? Well, we don't know what that number is. So we look and see, okay, so what do we know the least amount in this problem? Well, we don't know what the number is. So we're going to call it 8, or x. Call it 8. The sum of a number and 2 is always represents equals 8. There's your problem. Solve for x, and you have your answer. All right, let's look at example 2. And I know the book went through a whole page explaining that, and you can go ahead and read that if you want. But let's go to example 2. If 5 is added, so we know we're going to add 5 to something. If 5 is added to the sum of twice a number and 3 times the number, the result is 25. All right, so what do we know the least about? Again, we know the least about our number. So I'm just going to put a little hashtag there to represent number. Back in the olden days, that's what that represented. So let's see what we've got here. 5 is added to the sum of twice a number. So twice the number we're looking for is going to be added to 3 times the number, because it says if 5 is added to the sum of twice the number and 3 times the number. Okay, so what are we going to do with this, with twice the number and 3 times the number? We're going to put that in parentheses, because that's something that's being done. That's actually what 5 is being added to. It's not just being added to the 3x, nor is it just being added to the 2x. It's being added to the sum of twice the number and 3 times the number. So I'm going to put the 5 over here, showing that I'm adding it to this answer. Let's see. The result is, again, there's my is, 25. So there's my equation to solve this. And that's usually the hardest thing with story problems, is coming up with the equation. So let's do this. 2x plus 3x is 5x. We're trying to isolate the variable, so we're going to subtract 5 from both sides, so that at least goes away. And divide by 5, divide by 5. This is all old stuff. 20 over 5 is 4. And you're done. Now, as often as you can when you're doing these story problems, draw a picture. Now, when we were doing the sums of numbers and all that, you couldn't, but on this next example, we have the length of a rectangle is 3 times the width, and the perimeter is 72. So the perimeter is 72. If we add up all the sides, we get 72. All right, so what do we know? We know the length is 3 times the width. So we know this is the width, and we know the length is 3 times that. So rather than using a W and an L, because we don't know how to do math with 2 letters, 2 different letters, we only know 1 letter. So let's make one a W, and the length here, oops, the length here is 3 times W. So 3 times W is the length. So if we look at this one's W, and this one is 3 times W. Now all we have to do is add up all the sides. W plus 3W plus W plus 3W equals the perimeter, which is 72. So if I add all these up, I get 1 plus 3 is 4, plus 1 is 5, plus 3 is 8. So 8 W's equals 72. Get rid of my 8. And 72 divided by 8 is 9, and I'm done. So this is example number 4, dealing with the angles in a triangle. And let's see what it says here. I know that when I add up all the angles to a triangle, I get 180 degrees. So that'll help me. It says the angles in a triangle are such that one angle is twice the smallest angle. Well, let's call, okay, and the third angle is 3 times as large as the smallest. So what do we know the least about? Well, we know that 1 is twice the smallest, so we know something about that one. The third one is 3 times as large as the smallest, so we know something about that one. So what we know the least about is the smallest angle. So we'll call the smallest angle X, because we know the least about it. And now we'll compare the other two angles to that smallest. Well, then it says the another one of those angles is twice the smallest. So let's just pick one. Doesn't really matter. We'll make that one twice the smallest. And the third angle is 3 times. So we'll just take the last angle and make it 3 times X. And again, we know that if we add up this angle and this angle and this angle, we get 180 degrees. It's always the case. So if we take X plus 2X plus 3X, we get 180. And if we add our x's here, we have 6 of them. X plus 2x is 3x, plus 3x is 6x equals 180. Divide by 6, divide by 6, cancel, x equals 180 divided by 6, and in this case it figures out very easily to 30 degrees. Alright, so one of the things that's important is what does the story problem ask you to do? Does it just ask me to find what x equals? No. It says find the measure of all 3 angles. Well, if I know that x is 30, and let's do this in green here, x equals 30, then what is this angle? Well, it's 2 times x. If x is 30, then 2 times 30 is 60. And this angle here is going to be 3 times whatever x is, which is 30. So that's going to be 90. So we have 3 angles here that they were asking us to find. So make sure you don't just find out what x is. Make sure you find out what the equation is asking you to find out. And in this case, it was all 3 angles. So 30, 60, 90.